In this Luminar Neo tutorial, I'll show you how we can force some dynamic lighting into our otherwise flat portraits. After this simple editing trick, I'll also show you how we can imbue our photo with a bit more cinematic lighting as well. It's all very straightforward, but the results can be really powerful. But before I get into that, I just want to say if you want to upgrade Luminar Neo with their full pass, there's currently an early bird discount. I covered it in my last video, but what I didn't do was share the link that you needed to get the discount price. And there's two very important things we need to know about that. One is I am an idiot, and the second is it is a limited time offer only till August the 31st, and what's more, the passes themselves are also limited. So if you do want to grab one of those full update passes, this time I will actually leave a link in the description below. Right, let's get on to editing this portrait. As you can see on this photo here, the lighting is pretty flat. It's not really doing too much to add to the drama of what is otherwise a very nice photo. So what I would recommend that we do is jump into the curve section just to boost up the brightness level. We're then going to combine that with a mask, and we're going to use a luminosity mask. All we need to do is just click on one of the brighter parts of the face, and now you can see that everywhere that's red, that is going to reveal what we just created. So let me just show you where we're at the moment. This is our before and this is our after. So you can see we're getting a lot more illumination on the right hand side of the face and on the cheeks as well. But we can refine this a little bit more. So I'm just going to reset that, or what actually happened was I just closed the tool down. So if that happens to you, the tool moves out of the tool area here and just goes into the edit stack. So you can just revisit any tool that you've applied. So I'm just going to reset this and we're going to go again. So I like to use curves because that allows us to brighten things up without overexposing the photo. So as long as you don't actually send this line up to the top point here, you're not going to bleach out any areas on your photo. However, if we were to use just a more basic approach of the exposure slider here, you can actually bleach your photo unintentionally. So I like to use the curves, and we can boost this amount up here. And if we do start to clip this very top point, we just add another curve point and just bring that down. So we've brightened everything up. So now let's jump into the masking section again. Again, we're going to go with luminosity masking, and I'll zoom in so that we can clearly see exactly where we're selecting on our subject. And we go for one of the brightest areas here. So let's understand what's going on with this luminance selection here. Anything that appears in this bounding box in the middle, we get full intensity of any tool that we've applied. In this case, that brightening effect. And then between this bounding box and these lines either side, that is our transition zone. So you can see that as I move this box to the right, that's going to push it so it affects more of the highlights. And as I go even further, it's going to go more just towards the whites in the picture. And the further we push out this transition line, the smoother the effect is going to be applied to our photo. So I really like a nice smooth transition to make it look more believable. And we can also make that bounding box a little tighter as well. And now if we look at the before and after, you can see that we've had a really nice implementation of a brightening effect. However, I don't want to apply it through the entire photo. I don't want the bokeh effect in the background to be affected. I just really want his face and maybe some of his beard as well. And that's where we can combine masks. We've used our luminosity mask to add the effect in. I'm now going to use my brush to erase that effect from where I don't want it. And so I can push the size nice and large, bring the softness down so that I can be a little bit more precise. And I'm just going to paint away everywhere apart from over our model's face. So now if we look at the before and after, you can see that that brightening effect is only affecting him. If we want to, we can just chisel the effect away just ever so slightly with a nice soft brush, a reduced strength, and I'm just going to take it away a little bit from his beard because that's already a pretty bright part of the photo. So I don't want to push that too bright. It's more his skin that I was interested in, just sculpting that out just a little bit more. So let's have a look before and after, before and after. All right, so that's the approach in its most basic form, but we want to level up. What we're going to do now is apply this same technique with even more precision so that we can get an even more refined result. Let me show you how. Okay, let's come back into the tool section, grab the develop tool one more time, and let's go with another brightening effect. Something like that will do. Now I'm just going to jump into the masking section again, choose luminosity masking, and this time I'm just going to make a much tighter selection so that we can really pinpoint those highlights. I still want a nice smooth transition from the main area all the way to none of the effect. And if we jump out of here, you can see that we've really brightened him up here. It's far too much at the moment, but that's when we combine what we've created here with our brush to erase the effect from where we don't want it. So I'm going to set my strength somewhere around 50%. So anywhere that I paint now, I'm going to be erasing, because I'm in the erase mode, erasing that brightening effect. So I'm just going to click and paint over the beard once. So we're getting rid of most of that off the beard, or 50%. And now I'm just going to take it away from the hairline and then just start to feather that in so that on the right hand side of his face, on the bridge of his nose, on his eye and his cheek here, we get more of that effect. And then if it's just a little bit too much anywhere, like maybe on his forehead here, it's just a bit too bright. So I can just ease that back just a little bit. And now if I zoom out, again, we can see that we do have that brightening effect also going on the light daubs there. So what we can do is just quickly crank that strength all the way up, crank the size all the way up and the softness down so we can be precise in erasing that effect. And now we know that we're not affecting anywhere else on the photo, only his face. So let's have a look before and after, and you can see that I did actually miss some of those right there. Before and after, there we go. And let's toggle all the way back to the beginning, before and after, before and after. Now, because this guy is looking up towards the light, I think it'd be cool to introduce some cinematic lighting, a bit of a light flare to indicate that there's some sunlight coming down onto his face there. So let me show you an approach that we can use for that. So in the top right of the photo up here, I'm going to add a brightening effect. And there's several ways that we can do that in Luminar Neo, but since we're exploring the develop tool and the potentially overlooked aspects of that, let's give that another whirl as well. So again, I'm just going to brighten everything up, and this time I'm grabbing the bottom left-hand point, which represents the blacks of the photo. And rather than making them all black by moving it to the right, what I can do is make them brighter by lifting it up. So I'm just trying to sort of bleach out this area here. As well as using our curve, we have the ability to work with the sliders as well. So we could boost the shadows, boost the blacks. We could even boost the exposure up as well if we wanted to. Now bear in mind, we're going to feather this effect in from full intensity at the top right and just let it fall off as it heads towards the model. But currently, if we look at the before and after, it's a very white light. So what I want to do is actually just warm this up. So I'm going to jump into the color temperature here, grab the temperature slider and just push that towards the right. And I may even add just a little bit of magenta in just to sort of counteract those greens in the background as well. Let's go for something like that. Now, again, we come into our masking section because masking is the key to where we apply these effects. So we are going to select a radial gradient. We're going to click a point up in the top right, which is going to represent the 100% point of our effect. And anything that falls inside this circle here, this first circle, that's going to be full intensity of that adjustment we made. And then we're going to fall off from that inner circle towards this outer circle. So at the moment, I'm quite happy for that just to sort of bleed off across his face. So it's going to help with that believability of the light just flaring in from the top right. And now once we've set that up the way we want it to, we come out of that mask and we just look at the before and after and see if we're happy with what we've created before and after. We can further enhance this effect by going the opposite way and darkening down what's going on in the left-hand side and the bottom of the frame as well. So I'm just going to grab the exposure slider this time, darken everything down. And again, I'm going to use a similar mask. So I'll just grab the radial gradient and just throw that over our model there. If I jump out of it this time, you'll see that we've actually affected the opposite of what I want. So all we need to do is just invert that mask. So that's going to now add that darkening effect, but over the opposite area of what we just drew with that radial gradient. And if I show the mask now, you can see that the red mask is indicating where the darkening effect, that drop in exposure that we just did, where that is going to be applied. And so that is how we get that effect. Before and after, we've really helped to sculpt that light. Now I feel like the light on his face may just be a little bit too strong, and that's fine because we have got access to all of those develop tools that we applied, so we can jump into any one of them. So this is our very first one, before and after. And if you feel it's just a little bit too bright, you can come back in and just make some small adjustments to that curve. So now we have a slightly more refined brightening effect. We can go to the one just above. This was our secondary, more highlight focused adjustment. And we can just bring that curve point down. You can see if I bring it all the way down here, you can see exactly the areas that we're affecting. And we can just fine tune that to a point where we feel happy with it. All right, and what about the flooding of that light from the top? I mean, that is helping to sort of brighten his face as well, but in not such a controlled way. So if we wanted to, we could come in and we could use, say, Object Select, and with the subtraction option, we could just subtract that from his face. So if I click on his face, that is now gone from there. But what that's going to do is actually leave us with a bit of a nasty halo. So I'm not very happy with that. Let's undo that. And instead, my preference is to use the brush in erase mode with a nice soft edge, a small strength, and just gently tickle that away from his face there. I don't know if tickling that away from his face is the right phraseology I should be using, but you get the idea. Okay, as a very final touch, this little highlight at the bottom left-hand corner, that is a big distraction for me. So I want to remove that. And I also want to add just a little bit of a color grade to this as well. So really quickly, I'll just come to the clone tool. I'm just going to sample an area of his jumper here, and I'm just going to paint that very roughly over that. So now that highlight's gone. And I'm just going to jump into the mood tool so that we can quickly add a lookup table. And one of the ones that I really like to use is Long Beach. Let's have a look. If we push that intensity even higher, let's see, before and after, a nice sort of cinematic color grade there. Maybe that's a bit heavy-handed with Long Beach. Let's just reduce that a little bit and look at that original before and after, and look at all that lovely light sculpting that we've been able to do on that photo. So obviously you want to do what you can in camera to make sure that your subject is lit properly. But, you know, in a pinch, this little editing hack can be really useful for you. And if you want to learn more editing tricks, skills, the full works from fundamentals all the way through to more advanced editing techniques, there are a few spots that have opened up for my very popular Luminar Neo editing course. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. There's limited spaces, so if you are interested in that, I would grab one of those spots before it's full again. Thank you for watching, and if you missed my preview about the Luminar Neo full upgrade, you can watch that video right there where I break down what tools are added, what's new, what we can look forward to, and I also go over some of the things that, I don't know, I feel are still missing inside Luminar Neo. It's worth a watch if you haven't seen it yet. Bye-bye for now.